Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday evening. I am back to have the second of the BS and beer sessions for this weekend. I figure Friday and Saturday is a good time to do it because, that's when you would be sitting around shooting the breeze and BSing with other people. Yesterday, we did the almost 12-year-old to the day Bourbon County brand stout from Goose Island, which was phenomenal, and I knew because if it was an imperial stout, it would take age well. Well, today we're going to try something that I don't know. This is a crapshoot. This Gigando bottle, the 22-ouncer, this is Clown Shoes, Space Cake Double IPA from Clown Shoes Brewing up in Boston. Pay no attention to that $7.95 because that's how old this is. Where was it? I know did I see the year on it, or did I have it in my notes? I think it was in my notes. But either way, this is a double IPA India Pale Ale. I could have sworn that it was somewhere. Must not have been. Either way, I do remember when it came into New York, and that's when I first got it because I was working at the beer store. But the India Pale Ale, look, I know I'm probably going to upset a lot of craft beer people, but IPAs, India Pale Ales, it's like the entry. It's like the entry-level beer. It's so easy to make, and I don't know, really relatively hard to screw up. So everybody makes an IPA or a double IPA, which is just extra hopped. And the hops, of course, are the green little bud-like plants that give beer its bitter flavor. Also act as a preservative, which is why every beer has hops. Because without it, beer would have a shelf life of not very long. Now, double IPAs, and this is 9% volume, so the alcohol would be good. But IPAs, the problem is when they last, when they go a while, that hop bitterness is going to disappear. It's going to dissipate, and you're going to be left with a little less bitterness and a lot more of the malt sweetness, which some people might like, but depending on what you're going for. But let's see, we've got you know what, I'll pour it and then I'll flip it, and then there's something I want to talk about which should be interesting. So let's see. Well, there's carbonation still, because I heard that. So this is, let's see, so 2014, so 11 years old. This right here, this fancy glass with the Duvel logo is called a Tulip glass. It's much like the snifter from yesterday, except it flares outward at the edge, because that is what's going to keep the head of the drink. And I'm not going to pour the whole thing in because this is 22 ounces. Let's not get out of hand. But just on the look, have to admit, incredibly surprised by the amount of carbonation still. Yeah, so I'm going to flip this, get it reset, and then we'll shoot the breeze for a minute. Okay, I wanted to see if I could get it to a position. I'm actually using the phone this time. I figured out what I could probably do better. Here's the beer. Now, again, a double IPA, it's going to have that real bitter kind of almost, it's almost like cannabis. I think, I believe hops and cannabis might be in a relatively similar family, but it'll have that kind of dank green, for lack of a better term, green smell. But this has started to lose it over the years. That's perfectly normal for a double IPA. All I smell really is like the sweet malts, but the color looks nice. Not a lot of yeast sediment, which actually, considering the beer and the age, very shocked by. Well, let's see. Like I say, this is, we'll find out in a minute. But again, 9%, so we'll see. It's a lot less than yesterday. Okay. Weirdly, color me surprised. Because this stuff, still really nice. Does it say? I don't think they did back then. But nowadays they put on what is called IBUs, the International Bittering Units. The higher the number, the more hops therefore the more bitter it is. There's still some bitterness to it, but not overpowering. You know what? Weirdly enough, I've tried older IPAs in the past, and they did not hold up well. They really started to sour, and you got that very distinct, almost vinegary taste that shouldn't be there. There will be a beer. Maybe I'll try to find one for next weekend. A beer when I talk about having purposeful sour smell. There are beers out there like that. I'll get into more detail with that. But let us see. So we've got the little blurb. Why are Miracle Mike and his dog Bionic being chased by an evil laser beam shooting cupcakes and 2 giant layer cake motherships? You know what? He is, that ain't wrong. That ain't wrong. Because we're straight lunatic fools? Well, maybe, but with a few brain cells remaining, we managed to craft Space Cake Double IPA, utilizing citrusy mosaic hops. That's one of the strains. Like, there's dozens and dozens, and each one has a little different property. And an immaculate West Coast style malt backbone. Dude, chill out, enjoy some space cake. I do. I will. This is nice. Like I say, especially for 11 years old, this should not be as good as... It shouldn't be as good as it is, but it still truly is. So, big ups to Clown Shoes. Now, something random I wanted to talk about. As I was actually getting ready to come over here to film this, I read some of the comments from the Goose Island, the Bourbon County video that went up as I'm filming this not that long ago, but it is Friday night as I'm filming this. Clean Cheap Shots left a comment and said, what is the difference between bourbon and whiskey? I figured I'm going to respond. I'll have responded to his comment, but I also figured that's a nice little couple minute ramble. Basically, the difference between bourbon and whiskey is as such. They're both essentially the same thing. It all depends. It's all based on the laws and what you can call it. Whiskeys can be made literally anywhere and call themselves whiskeys. I think, honestly, it would probably be a shorter list to name all the countries that don't produce a whiskey of some sort rather than all the countries that do. And weirdly, whiskey, it's kind of a, you think back to like the Old West and the lawless days, whiskey everything, and it's like, well, really, whiskey is kind of a lawless world when it comes to whiskey. So you have like, Scotch whiskeys, Irish whiskeys, English whiskeys, Canadian whiskeys, etc., etc. However, the difference is, and I'll break it down and I'll put the points up there because, I think this is kind of fascinating. For something to be a bourbon, number one, it has to be made in the United States. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is what the law dictates. To be called a bourbon, it must be made in the United States. The majority of them are made in Kentucky on the Bourbon Trail. And if you ever get a chance to go down there, I highly recommend it because, one, the scenery is beautiful. Even if you're not a big drinker or whiskey person or bourbon person, the distilleries are just very nice tours. Next, while whiskeys, on the whole, can be made of anything I should say, not everything, but anything, bourbon must contain in the mash, and the mash is the grains and malts that they literally mash up and mix with water to distill the alcohol from. Has to be at least 51% corn. That's the rule. To be a bourbon, has to be at least 51% corn. When they age it, because most spirits are aged to some degree or another, bourbon must be aged in brand new charred oak barrels. Most of the time it's American white oak, just because of the porous nature. It allows air to get in, but it doesn't permit liquid to go out. And whiskey, you can put it in anything. And a lot of times, because the bourbon barrels can only be used once, most of them are sold off to whiskey distillers and brewers. A lot of Scotch and Irish whiskey distillers will get bourbon barrels from the U.S. because the only thing that barrel has had in it is that particular bourbon. And then there's limits and rules as to what you can what you have to bottle it at percentage-wise. Bourbon, whiskey, again, it's whatever you want to do. But bourbon is distilled to a maximum 160 proof or 80% alcohol. Once it gets to the barrel, it can be no greater than 125 proof or 62.5% alcohol. And they lower it down with adding water to it. And when you bottle it, it can be no less than 80 proof or 40% alcohol. And normally when you see something that says like cask strength or bottled in bond, usually it's a higher proof, like 50%, 100 proof, things like that. I find stuff like that really fascinating, and I think that'll be something kind of cool. You know what? We'll just enjoy one last sip on camera, I should say. One last on-camera sip of the Space Cake Double IPA. And then, by this time, the movie at Singularity Digital Art will be starting at 10:30 Eastern. So, I'll be having this over watching the movie. And hope to see you guys there. Let me know what you thought. I'm actually kind of enjoying this. So, we'll see. I'll be back with this stuff next Friday, but the rest of the week, business as usual. So, until then, yeah, that's still rather good. I like that. So that's going to do it. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you next time.